While I wait for the votes on the previous video to tally up, I thought I'd make a quick video about Darkest Dungeon.
Ruin has come to our family.
Don't let the game's well-drawn, well-animated, well-voiced opening fool you. This game's story isn't anything about reclaiming your old home and clearing your family's debt to history. This game's story is about being an HR manager for the worst business in the world. Let's talk about Ludonarrative. Looks like a big, scary, pretentious word idiots use in think pieces, doesn't it? Well, don't worry, let me translate it for you. Narrative means narrative, and Ludo is Latin for I play. Play story doesn't sound nearly as smart, does it? Basically, it's when the emotional effect of the game on the player is the real story, and the setting and plot amount mostly to set dressing. All games have a ludonarrative of sorts, but not all of them make it their actual focus. Darkest Dungeon's typical loop is you build a party, venture forth into a dungeon, crawl room to room fighting bad guys, get scared, get hurt, collect identical busts of the same guy, accidentally walk into traps because the movement system's a little bit too finicky sometimes, and make heroic speeches around a campfire. Then you leave with your loot and use the money to upgrade your stuff and go to harder places. But none of this is the actual game. It looks nice and the battle engine is fairly complex, but it's never really in doubt what the best move is in any given circumstance, at least in my opinion. The battles boil down to, do you want to deal a lot of damage to a guy, deal less damage to several guys, inflict bleed on one or more guys, causing them to lose health over time, inflict blight on them, which does the same thing but better, or stun someone so they can't stab you. If you know basic maths, there's always a pretty obvious choice. If this was the game, it wouldn't be out of place on the iPhone App Store. That's not an insult, it's just not that complex of an RPG if you take the battle system alone. The real game is everything outside of the dungeons. While it's always obvious what the best move is in any given battle, your band of mercenaries have to be picked by you. Their placement in the party order has to be picked, which affects what moves they can do and who they can do them to. The items they enter the dungeon with have to be picked. It's possible to let a good party go completely to hell because you didn't give them enough bandages or shovels or torches and they got stuck digging through the rock with their bare hands, bleeding to death in the dark. You can be really good at knowing when to do bleed, when to do blight, when to stun, and when to hit people with your axe, sword, mace, or dog. But if you didn't bring enough torches, all of these poor people you sent in to do your work are probably gonna die. Oh, also, all of your employees get stressed. Idiots. Don't they know some people have to work 3 jobs? God, they're so dramatic. And guess what? If their stress gets too high, they freak out and can develop some seriously messed up reactions that make it really difficult to work with them. Kevin! Stop it! Kevin! And if they get too stressed out, they'll die. So you can't bring your best, most experienced people into every fight because they'll go mad, harass their friends, and die of a heart attack like me in Fast Forward. So you have to put them on standby in a bar, getting drunk or gambling away your money or praying in a church and donating your money to the church before deciding they want to pray forever and now they're never gonna leave. And even when you have all this under control, the characters all have quirks. A lot of these are simple gameplay stuff. Simpsons Hentai is a ruins explorer, so she's better in the ruins levels, and Me is a wheeled adventurer, so he's 15% better in the wheeled, whatever that is. What is a wheeled? I have no idea what a wheeled is. But a lot of these quirks are a little more personal. Some people are known to cheat, so they can't gamble to reduce stress, and some will only gamble, which is arguably an even worse problem in the long run, and some are super religious, so they'll only meditate, which is a huge problem if the one place you can meditate is taken up by someone who refuses to leave. And as they fight, even if they do well when they level up, they don't always gain positive traits, they can also gain negative ones. So as your people get stronger, they get harder to work with, and curing these negative traits costs money and time you don't have, because you have to keep questing to get more stuff to make your blacksmith able to upgrade everyone's weapons so your other guys who need rest will have the equipment to go on their quest when they get better from the last one. So you have to bring a kleptomaniac along so they can carry the rest of the team and just hope that their need to relentlessly touch everything doesn't get everyone killed. And when someone does die, more people are always waiting in the wings to replace them, bringing with them their own host of problems. It's terrifying. What is he gonna do with his dog? This is the Ludonarrative. It makes you feel like a real manager of people in a tense situation, learning their intricacies and personal problems, doing the best you can to patch them up, make them feel better, and with a little luck keep them alive long enough to gain ground in the battle against darkness. It's a long and difficult fight with highs and lows, but for every time someone goes down or gets so stressed out they become a raging shitheel, there are times when someone's stress gets tested and they persevere and continue beyond the limits of your expectations and prove to be a true hero in the face of danger, turning the tide completely. You get invested in this struggle and learning to think like you're dealing with real people, marshalling this ever more insane workforce into performing a truly grueling task. The dramatic tale of your ancestors' failings you unlock over the course of the game pales in comparison to wondering if Tilly will ever come back from his drunken bender, or wondering what the horrors of battle will have done to Simpsons Hentai this week. Oh great, what did you get this time? But seriously, this game makes you invested in these people's existence and genuinely worry if they'll pull through. All the stats and numbers and mechanics seem to melt away, resulting in this personalized freeform story. It's great. Rather than have a story of pre-planned character interactions to passively troll through and make arbitrary decisions on, the game spews forth an intricate web of mechanics that forces you mentally into the role of a character. It's a very rare game that even attempts this, and seeing it achieved so well warms my cold, dead heart. I have one major issue with Darkest Dungeon though. It does all this well enough that its problems become more glaring than in other games. We've established that the actual game is about working with people and getting that feeling on an emotional level of trying to manage a team, right? Well, for a game that does this, it relies a little too much on relating these people to you with cold, hard numbers and facts. People aren't easy to pin down, people are unexpected and surprising, which is why some aspects of the quirk system feel underexplored. Real-life people don't just have alcoholic written into their souls, it's a little too mechanical and clunky for a game that really focuses on these personal foibles. It's also too easy to work around, it just means you relieve their stress somewhere else, or don't take them to the place where the thing that hurts them more lives. It's still very good at creating the feeling of trying to work with people with problems and get around them, but at times it feels a little too mechanistic. But even then, that's not all that negative. That design decision brings a feeling of its own to the Ludonarrative. Perhaps treating people like they can be easily reduced to a short list of good and bad points is an effect of fighting in a war where people's lives are expendable. In a sense, it replicates what it must be like to be in a situation like this, and trying to just keep everyone going. You start to treat humans a bit less like people and a bit more like statistics. The game with arguably the best ludonarrative ever besides the otherwise underwhelming Bioshock games is Papers, Please, which manages this really well. It's a game that teaches you to compromise your own morality in favour of following the rules, or simply trying to increase your own chances of survival, but unlike Darkest Dungeon, it manages to be messy and human at the same time. This woman's passport has a misprint on it. She's done nothing wrong and you can just refuse her entry, but you can also have her arrested, and the guard who arrests people gets a bonus when you do it, and he's offered to share his bonus with you if you detain more people, which you could use to keep your family warm and fed. So you do it. You let this poor woman get into a whole heap of trouble, for your own survival. The next day, the guard tells you his wife was sick, and he had to spend the money on the medicine, so he can't share his bonus with you this time. You detained that woman for nothing. I felt genuinely bad when this happened. Like, bad on the inside where my heart should be. I made that choice. I didn't have to, but I did. The game avoids merely listing the rules out to you for what money you can get and how, and throws curveballs where sometimes you don't get what you're told you'd get, or a day suddenly gets cut short by a terrorist attack so you don't make much money and you get stretched a little bit thinner. In being willing to compromise its own rule set, it accurately simulates the feeling of being in turbulent times where nothing is certain. Papers, Please is depressing and confusing and wonderful. That's not to say that Darkest Dungeon is bad, or even that I would change anything about it at all, but I think there's also room for a game like Darkest Dungeon, not necessarily an RPG, where characters' flaws are all a little harder to pin down, forcing you to detective out each character's deal and react to it in ways that feel more natural. If I wasn't already working on a game right now, I would probably try to make something that incorporates that idea somewhere. Maybe in the future. Thanks very much for watching. Please check out... My knee just cracked. Thanks very much for watching, and please check out my previous video about the Braid game, and at the end you can vote on it, on what the next video is. You should probably go and do that if you haven't. Thanks.